I'm just going to go straight into my presentation. It's got a long title to it. It says, Keeping Print Strong While Adapting to New Technologies and Evolving Consumer Needs. We're probably the only representative here at the Festival of Media that is from the traditional legacy media part of the equation. I see a lot of friends and familiar faces here, but I'm just going to take you through with a quick poll as to how many of you are here from out of town. Out of town. Okay, let's have another poll. How many of you here in Singapore for the very first time? Okay, very good. So a really warm welcome from the Singapore Press Holdings Group for all of you who are visiting Singapore for the very first time, and for those who are out of town. I'm just going to take you for a 20-minute journey through 5 strategies that we've employed with our legacy print media, having taken itself across not 120 years as the Koch gentleman was stating, but 168 years. We were born in the year 1845, and this is the year 2013. So if you do your maths, it's 168 years in the making. But before we begin, let me just share with you a quick snapshot on what we're all about in Singapore. We're Singapore Press Holdings, one of the largest listed companies here in this nation. We have 18 newspaper titles cutting across 4 language categories. We have 100+ magazine titles cut across 3 verticals. We have customized titles, we have proprietary titles, and we have licensed titles. So we also cut ourselves across the region in many parts, including China, Hong Kong, India, Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, the Philippines, and Vietnam. We have one major internet portal called Asia One with 25 verticals, cutting across newspaper title verticals and also lifestyle verticals. We have new media activation parts of our business, including iPad, Android and iPhone apps, location-based services, geolocation targeting facilities, etc. 3 radio stations, ladies and gentlemen, the latest being KISS FM, which is a female-centric station that was launched in September last year. And for our out-of-home facilities, we have more than 200 digital screens scattered island-wide, some of which are in public precincts and some of which are within shopping malls itself. We also do a few static locations across the island. And we have an event company, or an exhibition company, to be specific, called Sphere, and we activate some of the most largest exhibitions and fairs here in Singapore, and we've also taken that recently across to the region as well. I think last week we held our first conference in Myanmar, so we're breaking markets out of town as well. If you look at the landscape, what I've just described, ladies and gentlemen, we would be somewhat Asia's leading media organization on record. But that's not what I want to talk about this afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Imagine the amount and quality of content we produce and process daily across all those platforms I've just described to you. We're talking about text content, we're talking about audio content, video content, data streams in petabytes and exabytes. We're looking at proprietary content that we produce ourselves, third-party content that we put together, user-generated content, ladies and gentlemen, a big thing for us nowadays with the social networks contributing to fueling the data that we get internally. We curate our data, we translate our data, we aggregate our data across print, across web, and across mobile, which includes the iPads, the Androids, and the rest of smartphones. But we realize as well that although we are content generators and content curators, content isn't king anymore in this modern world to media companies like ourselves, the audiences. And I'm sure all of you would agree to that, yeah? Yeah? Okay. Because we realize where the dollars are coming from, they're from advertisers. And advertisers don't pay for us don't pay us to reach content, they pay to reach our content users, the consumers of today. And it is of prime importance to understand our content users, utilizing each and every part of our skill sets within internally and externally. We use a lot of consultants as well to help us understand. So I'm going to quickly share with you 5 points of contact in terms of our strategy. The first one is something of legacy. I think this one is something that everybody knows. We started with a product called the Straits Times in the year 1845, and that's 168 years old. But we realized very quickly that the Straits Times cannot be the national legacy forever. So we started to create business dailies, tabloid. We have a free sheet that goes out into the market on a daily basis. We have Chinese newspapers cutting across both morning and afternoon spectrums. We have Malay, we have Indian newspapers right across the board. The second point I want to make is the fact that not resting on our laurels, we believe in pushing the envelope to enhance content beyond the two-dimensional frame. And that's where we had 3 versions of what we mean by this. An example of this is the first 3-dimensional newspaper that we published, I think, a couple of years ago. And why I say it's the first 3-dimensional newspaper? Because it's not just confined to advertising, ladies and gentlemen. It was also editorial that was configured in 3 dimensions, and both advertising and editorial worked hand in hand to put the whole paper together. We slipped in a pair of anaglyph glasses sponsored by Samsung, who was then launching their 3-dimensional TV. And then we had our first in the world. Version 2, we're looking at code technology, be it color codes, be it QR codes. Most of our papers today will carry layer technology empowered by codes such as QR, where you click it and you can see more video streams, enhancing and amplifying the content story, or you would see more photographs that our photographers would have taken at the soccer match last night that we'd like to share with you. And the third dimension, or the third generation, is what we call augmented reality. And I'm sure some of you would be familiar with that. It's layer technology as well, empowered by wonderful brands like Total Immersion, Junayo, Mateo, iSnap, locally assembled company here in Singapore. We have an Indian company that we're looking at working with called EdStruck. I mean, these are the guys that are fueling these technologies where when you open up the smartphone, it empowers the camera on your phone to lift up different layers of information and content to create a bigger story other than just what you see on 2D print. 3, okay, are we getting to the 5? You can go for lunch. 3, even for advertising, ladies and gentlemen, we're looking currently right now at what we call multi-sensory advertising options. And what I mean by that, we're looking at the sense of sight. Although the sense of sight has been with us for the longest time as consumers of the paper that you read. The sense of touch, we call it tactile technology. The sense of taste, you can put stuff in your mouth, not the newspaper, but something that you can slip in your mouth and taste the latest offerings that are about to come. We're looking at hearing, and we're looking at smell. Okay, these are the 5 senses that we're working ourselves around. Firstly, if you look at the sense of sight, not so much as of reading the newspaper, but to be able to see different layers of information. I talked about AR just now. This is an activation that we worked with Volkswagen on. They created an app that was embedded into both Android and formats. And if you open up the app and connect with the 2-dimensional advertisement in our local newspaper, you would see a carousel of cars that can be switched around, and then as long as you hit a button on one of the cars, it would be highlighted, driving around the page and giving you the latest specs. I believe you can even book a test drive with it, if I'm not mistaken. That's augmented reality for the sense of sight. The sense of hearing, ladies and gentlemen, we're working with technology partners across the region to empower what we call sound chip technology. I mean, imagine the photo on the left. It's a freestanding insert that is slipped into it could be slipped into our paper that can empower both a sound chip device that could speak to you, or it could even be a video screen that's enabled. You can see the video screen on the top middle part of the freestanding insert that can play up to 40 minutes of video. The one on the right, it's an advertisement that you can actually stick and empower it with a sound chip. When you flip open the page of the paper, it starts talking to you because it's light activated. Then we look at smell. Scented inks are not a new part of technology, but encapsulated scent technology is new. And what that means is that in the modern printing plants now, which is air-conditioned, you can't really mix scent into the inks and print it anymore because of work safety regulations. So now their technologies have put scent into nanocapsules that are then poured into the ink substrates. And every time you sweep your hand across the page, it brings that particular scent up in contention. So, I mean, these are some of the new technologies that we're toying around with suppliers such as those who produce these. And then we look at taste. And taste is also something very, very new to us. I think it came across from the US, where I think taste strips are fairly common in supermarkets, I believe like Walmart, because I think it's expensive for you to put a physical character there to sample products. So they actually have strips that are on the gondola ends where you can take and stick it in your mouth and taste something before you buy it. If you want to buy a car, you go and take a test drive. If you want to buy a consumable product, you take it for a taste drive. So, and these flavors are incredible. I mean, you look at alcohol flavors, you look at bacon flavors, the latest pepperoni pizza flavors, etc., etc. So we're kind of excited right now because we've just found the technology. I think we're working off a company in the US called First Flavors, and they have this particular technology in hand where you actually can stick a strip in a sealed package within the advertisement itself, peel it open, stick that film into your mouth, and taste the latest taste that's about to come. And touch technology is the other part of things that we're kind of excited about. We haven't done it here in Singapore, but we hope to do something about touch this year. This is an example of Aquafina. Sorry, it's not Dasani, it's Aquafina. And they ran a magazine ad, and the parts where the water is supposed to be is actually made of bubble wrap. You know, the stuff that women or men like to sort of engage and poke around. I think what they really meant by this campaign is the fact that if you use bubble wrap, it connotes the fizziness or the effervescence in the drink a lot better than if you printed it two-dimensional. So I think they've really done a good job. I think Martin Lindstrom, the marketing guru, was interviewing the creator of this, and he says that if you engage them with one sense, you can only achieve so much. If you engage them with 2 cents, I mean, the whole experience is elevated. That's point 3. Point 4, ladies and gentlemen, not resting on our print laurels. We are now physically engaging in a huge host of what we call content extensions activations in the market, creating new products to adapt to evolving needs of our consumers. Niche communities are big for us. I mean, we've learned that we've been a mass communicator for far too long, and niche is something that we want to play in a major way as we go forward to amplify our content to specific communities that we want to engage. Singer Politics is one of the new websites that we created, but not just a one-way thing where we push from internally out to the public, but to also have conversations that are involving Facebook, social media, tweets, etc. We have a new vertical called Communities that has been started recently that you can contribute with text, quotes, photos, audio, and video, and we would then put that together and just push it out to the world. Lifestyle apps. This is where we leverage upon the content from across the group. I described to you earlier on, ladies and gentlemen, about the hundreds of magazines we have, the 18 newspapers, etc. We are actually pulling the best of food content from every part of the Singapore Press Holdings world to fuel an app in Singapore called SoShok. Citizen journalism is a major part of our delivery. We have a citizen journalism site called Stop. I mentioned the Straits Times being our national daily. STOMP actually stands for Straits Times Online, Mobile, and Print. And this is where we get our folks on the ground to say, listen, we're not there all the time when the news happens. It be an accident or a flood or whatever it is. We want you to send us your stories, and we want to make you journalists in your own right as citizens of this nation. We also include interactivity across smartphone devices with easy-to-use interfaces, improving ourselves all the time. We have a web TV channel called Razor TV. where we are empowered across both web and on tablet. And this is the TV channel that we actually take our journalists out to the streets and record the news that's happening right now in Singapore. And then, of course, we extend our content beyond print. We started with a print product, but now we've got mobile, we've got tablets, we've got web, we've got a daily electronic direct mailer feed as well to 50,000 receivers. This is the entire proposition of just one of our products. What about the rest? Last but not least, I'm just going to wrap up by sharing with you the fact that we realized a long time back that smartphones are not tablets, tablets are not laptops, and both are not print. So across different platforms, we've done surveys that tell us that people who use different products across different form factors activate it in different ways. So it's really kind of silly for us to just put stuff on the web and for you to just throw it into mobile and onto the other platforms without realizing how it's being consumed. So the user experience and expectations across different form factors, across different devices are obviously different. So what we've done is that we've actually harnessed the best attributes of each part of that platform chain that we have and drive it across the attributes. For example, print. Print carries long form very well. So we do a lot of commentaries and analysis in print and push that out, and the readers actually want more and more of that in their feedback to us. But on the other devices, like on the laptop, then the multimedia experience would be more relevant. Or on the mobile, where people are on the go, they don't really like to be pushed long stories. We just give them what we call breaking news, quick stuff that they can pick up on the go as alerts, etc. And of course, on the tablets, be it Android or breaking news, visual experiences, multimedia experience. I'll give you one case study to just wrap this whole thing up before we go for lunch. We had a recent by-election in a precinct in Singapore called Punggol East. This was on the 26th of January, the year 2013, which is a couple of months back. Just to cut the story short, I'm just going to fast forward to a few minutes before the results were being announced. And this was our breaking news that went out before we actually were able to confirm that it was won by the opposition party. We went to the ground and talked to analysts, and they told us that it was lost by the ruling party, and we just decided we would push it out. It says Punggol East by-election, Worker Party wins, says sources. And then when it was confirmed that it was indeed the Workers' Party that won, we immediately pushed it out once again, confirming the results. And then we went straight and took a press conference by the Prime Minister of Singapore as to reasons why this happened. Then we went across social media with our Facebook postings and across Twitter, the Twitter interface. Razor TV interviewed folks just before the election results were announced, and once the election results were announced, we went to the press conference and we took the press conference for the Workers' Party. And then, of course, last but not least, mobile was never left out of the whole equation. Mobile carried the entire tracking of the elections from the onset till the results were announced. And then just before midnight, I mean, you're talking about from 10:30 right to midnight, just before midnight, under Singapore politics, we issued out our first commentary by our opinion editor, Mui Hung. And then only on the next day, on the Sunday, this happened on the Saturday, and the Sunday, we carried a very comprehensive report in the Sunday Times. Multi-pages we used for this to amplify the entire occasion. So my parting shot, ladies and gentlemen, and that's probably why I'm wearing my print tie here, is the fact that print is not dead. I know everyone's talking about digital right now, but you've seen how we've taken print across different platforms, across different spectrums, across different eras to where we are today. Basically, it's an evolution of sorts that we will continue to run the journey with. We went from a single product called the Straits Times in the year 1845, to a multi-dimensional, multi-platform, multi-content product that it is today. Keeping print strong, ladies and gentlemen, while adapting to new technologies and evolving consumer needs, is all about what we're about. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Geoff Tan from SPH.